Hey, what's going on, guys? I hope you guys are having a good day. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. Welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. And today we're going to talk a little bit about families and particularly an example that a lot of you have brought to us and mentioned that you like our opinion on. And that's Kirk Franklin. Kirk Franklin and his son, Kerrion, had a real big blow up not too long ago. And as a result, Kirk has already issued an apology to the public, and this has kind of become sort of a conversation topic where he basically just cusses the hell out of his son. And a lot of people were trying to say, trying to wonder, okay, does this mean that he's not a true Christian, or that he's an abusive father, or does it just mean that he was frustrated? So today I got a chance to speak with Dr. Alicia about this issue. How you doing today, babe?
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing good. Now I know you do a lot of family therapy and stuff like that, and
I
so
do some.
so you
Yeah.
see a lot of chaotic situations with families. Did you get a chance to hear Kirk Franklin and his
I heard it for the first time that one time last night when you played it.
how did you feel when you first heard it?
I was surprised. That's not a side of Kirk Franklin I thought was there.
He don't put that on his gospel records, does
I
he?
know. It's like when I think about Kirk Franklin, I think about that great music and that one song about smile.
I don't know.
I
I don't know.
smile.
I do not know a single Kirk Franklin song.
Oh boy, she got to get with Kirk
I
Franklin.
just know
He's so
I know he
good.
jumps around like a little black leprechaun and
He
all his songs.
does.
He's got a lot of energy though. I can tell he's talented, but that like I really love gospel thing. I honestly think that's more of a woman thing. But
I
then
love
again, maybe
gospel
I'm sick.
music. Yeah, I do. I absolutely love gospel music. And Kirk Franklin, gosh, I mean, he's been writing wonderful songs for a very long time. Very empowering, very uplifting. He's one of the good ones. He's one of the best, I think, in terms of gospel writers. And he doesn't even sing. He just writes and gets these great voices on his albums. And he's positive and all those great things. I think he's a little suspect.
We got some sugar in the
Got a
tank.
little sugar in his tank.
That's right. Well, we ain't here to judge the sugar in the tank,
But
but
that's not our business.
you know
That's
what?
between him and
I don't even
God.
care. It ain't like the it ain't like the black church ain't complex. I don't diss the black church. Because my dad's a preacher, and I just I think that churches come in all shapes and sizes. But it is real fascinating because we know that the church is full of human beings, right? Like that's the most we and it's like all kinds of ridiculous ratchetry can go on, right? But it's like because God forgives me, I could just be more ratchet than the typical.
You take it and leave it. Get what you can out of it. And really, it isn't any of our business what happens in the bedroom for Kirk Franklin.
Oh,
Didn't
well,
he have a porn addiction?
he did mention that. I forgot about that.
He had a porn addiction. So there's some issues there with
Well,
him.
but that doesn't have anything to do with what happened with his son. But
It is
but
related.
how it's related to me. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
It is related.
Mm-hmm.
It's related because those of us heathens who don't go to church, because I guess that technically makes me a bad person. It's like you think that or the perception is that people who are in the church and lead the church
Mm-hmm.
have a different standard, right? Like almost like when they talk about police officers, like if a cop's like, well, I killed him, yeah, but people shoot people all the time, but you're like, no, but you're a cop, you have a different standard.
Well, I mean, I know your dad's a retired police officer, but and he could talk about this too. Is that a
Mhm.
lot of police officers are perpetrators of domestic violence too.
Yeah, well, a lot of
I've seen that.
the similar to the police department.
Hmm.
I think the church and the police department, one thing they have in common is it's like they have a certain perception from society that you are above the board, but you also see where those institutions attract mentally ill people.
Well, I mean, their job is to. Okay, so police officers' job is to protect and serve.
Hmm.
But at the same time, being in that position, you see the dirtiness of society, and how could that not affect you?
Mm.
Right. And so, okay, so churches, their job is to, what is that?
What
To
the,
for religion and to
well, I
talk
think
about
that
the Bible and Mhm.
there's a difference in church members and church leadership,
Oh yeah. So
right?
he's a leader for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's where like if Kurt was just a guy who went to church, that's one thing. But the fact that he's seen as a leader, I don't know if he's ordained or something. Like it seems like everybody's
Oh
ordained.
my God, he hosts this great show. There's this show called Sunday's Best.
Mm-hmm.
I don't miss an episode. It is so good. Like the best singers in the whole wide world are singers in the church. And
Mm.
he hosts that show, and I just am just like overwhelmed with how much talent there is out there, especially for gospel singers.
Mm.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Wow, that is so hilarious.
What?
There's a guy Crowley keeps saying, "Stop simping, stop simping, boys, stop simping, boys."
Wait, hold on. Wait, we're just having a regular conversation. What
But
is
you know
that?
how it is. You got people Negro to live in their mama's
Oh,
basement.
wait,
They
is that
can't get a
hold
woman.
on, is that what's called a troll?
Yeah, yeah, it's okay. I don't mind. I don't mind being called. I don't care. If you're a real man, you don't care if people if fake Negroes call you a simp. It's like whatever, man. If you're secure in your manhood, you don't need another man to affirm your manhood. You
Uh-huh.
just go out and you just be a man. You know, I learned that from my daddy. My daddy, my daddy would probably be accused of toxic masculinity. You know, he's a veteran and he's just a real man. Like my dad would kill somebody to protect his family. You know, so I learned from my father that if you're a real man, you ain't got to go around with your chest out, proving to other men that you're a man. Like why do you got to prove it? If you got to prove it, that means you don't believe it.
Well, the
But if you're
thing
comfortable in your manhood, you don't have to prove shit to nobody. So I don't got to prove nothing to nobody.
well, what should matter to you the most are the people, your close friends, the people who are around you, your family. That
Well,
should matter. And
I think also
mhm.
though, remember this though, manhood is a personal thing, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
For men. Like
Mhm.
I don't want a woman telling me how to be a man. Like that's not so I get your perception. Just like I couldn't tell you how to be a woman. Because there's things about womanhood I will never understand. Like with our girls. Like there's things you can tell them that I will never ever be able to replicate.
Mhm.
But so same thing is true with manhood. Like, when it comes to me and Quincy, there's areas where women got to get off the bus. A man, men got to be men, and that's it. So but
Hmm.
anyway, okay, so
That's
let's
interesting.
get back to
Okay.
Kirk. By the way, if everybody who's watching, if you could please hit the thumbs up button, share button, subscribe button if you haven't done it yet, and also subscribe to yourblackworldtv.com. There's the URL on the screen, and that's where we have intelligent black conversations on a regular basis. So we believe in black intelligence, and as you know, the internet is full of ignorance, and so so we're trying to be a beacon of light in a world of just dummies. But
Yeah, well, I think like the point I was trying to make earlier was just that like okay, what matters is how your close friends and family think about you.
mm-hmm,
And I think for Kirk Franklin, after we kind of like read that article, was that he made a public apology. So he cared more about what these strangers, people that he doesn't
mm-hmm,
even know
mm-hmm,
personally, he
mm-hmm.
made this public apology, but he didn't quite make things right in terms of his family, the people who are close to him, his immediate family. So I think like his son, and I know you're going to read the article. Are you
Yeah,
going to do that? I think
yeah,
like his son in the article, his son was just like, okay, you made this public apology, but you didn't apologize to me. You didn't make things right with me. And I think like it's almost like, oh, this is a PR problem. Let's try to like squash it. But then he still has these issues with his son.
yeah. Well, Janet says no need to apologize. Your son has tried to manipulate the parents of this world, but guess what? We've all been there. I don't care how saved you are. Your disrespectful kids can make the hood come out. Yeah, I saw it. The hood definitely came out with Kirk.
Yeah.
I mean, he was cussing. I mean, he didn't sound like no gospel singer, but
Yeah.
you can understand that. Like, and you don't know the history there. I mean, it sounds to me like it's something that's pretty deep. Maybe very frustrating for both of them.
Yeah. But
Um,
I think like when you're a parent, being a parent, because we're parents, you
mm,
set the tone for how that relationship is going to be as the
mm,
parent.
mm,
And so when things start to kind of unravel, which it totally was awful that son recorded that and put that out there,
mm.
that was pretty terrible thing. But, it sounds like he just was very frustrated and very angry at his father. And so I'd be wondering, like, where's that anger coming from? Like, what's happening?
But you can kind of see both sides. On one hand,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
imagine being the son of Kirk Franklin is not fun. Even in my own family. Like I haven't done as much as Kirk Franklin has done. But
Mm-hmm.
when I go to different places,
Mm-hmm.
we get interrupted a lot. People are like, people want to take pictures and stuff, and it takes away from your family time.
Mm-hmm.
And your
Mm-hmm.
kids can feel like they don't give a shit. They don't care how famous you are, how much money you made. None of that, because they just can't. They don't know what to compare that to. They're not thinking like, okay, we started from the bottom, now we're here. I remember when I was poor, now we're rich. No, your kids were born rich. Your kids were born in the spotlight, so they don't know what it's like to not be out of in the spotlight. So they can't. So they're not seeing it as a blessing. Sometimes they can see it as a curse.
Well, I mean, it just sounds like, in terms of children, what they really want is they want attention and love from their parent. And apparently, that must have broken down somewhere in this family.
Yeah.
You want that love and attention. That money, I bet he'll gladly give up the money and the fame, just to have a real relationship with his father. I'm just saying. That's what I would think.
Well, I do
You know?
think. I think Rico Slade makes a good point. He says, "So did his son not break eavesdropping laws, which are a felony to record someone over a phone call unless they consent, depending on the state." Yeah,
Okay, I hope it doesn't get into that sort of thing.
I
Like
don't, I
that's
don't,
a
I
little,
don't think it will. But
yeah.
the thing about it is that that's a huge betrayal of trust. Like, and you can see where both of them mess up, right? I think Kirk
Hmm, hmm.
will admit that he shouldn't have let himself get unraveled like that, right? And he's probably has some regrets, maybe from when the boy was a kid. Like if he's 33 and Kerrion, the son, if he's 33 and they're having these issues, they started when he was little,
Yeah.
right? So at least that's my you're the professional, you're the therapist,
Hmm,
but I imagine
hmm.
it's okay. And so I think Kirk has his regrets. And I
Yeah.
think for his son, it was kind of trifling, like to record your father like that, because that's the
Hmm,
thing about it is, people that are in the public eye, it's hard to trust people. I know that, like, just the public eye that I'm in, like,
hmm.
I don't let people get real close to me. And because anybody can have a conversation with you over anything at any time, and then they've got leverage, they've got something they can use. Like somebody could talk to me one time over like over like carrots at the grocery store, and
Hmm.
then they'll go do a YouTube video and be like, "Dr. Boyce cussed me out over carrots,"
Oh
and
gosh, here
and
we
it'll
go.
get thousands of views.
Yeah.
Because so the thing is, like, I
Hmm,
think for Kirk, and I imagine for him it's like times 10, because again, I'm not Kirk Franklin, right?
hmm.
But I know a little bit about that life, and I've seen that. Or like when I would talk to major celebrities, the Ice Cube types, people like that, they don't really, it's like little shit like that is stuff that you expect a stranger or a hater to do. When somebody that close to you does it, it feels almost like having a suicide bomber in your house.
Well, I think that's fair. That's a fair one, Boyce, because we didn't hear the entire conversation. We only heard like a snippet of it. So, I mean, some of it was out of context, and it was the part where probably Kirk Franklin kind of just went off. He just lost it. And I think all of us lose it. And what I like about Kirk Franklin is that he actually went back and he said, you know what? That's not what I was supposed to have done. I should not have spoken like that. I shouldn't have spoken to my son like that. I like that, but I would really, really enjoy seeing Kirk Franklin. And hopefully he's doing this, reaching out to his son and fixing this,
Mm.
you
Well,
know?
let me read a little bit more about. I'm gonna read the apology. I think that's important.
Okay.
Do me a favor, everybody. If you could, please hit the thumbs up button, share button, subscribe button if you haven't done it yet. And also, because Alicia and I are big fans of things like Black relationships and Black people loving each other, we actually created the Black Love channel, where we actually talk about love and relationships, because we believe Black love is the ultimate love. And if you agree with us that Black love is the ultimate love, say yes in the chat. We'd love for you to subscribe to the Black Love channel. And the reason we do that is because, I'm tired of Black men and Black women hating each other, and
It
media.
is not the Black hate channel.
Right.
It's the
I don't,
Black Love
I
channel.
don't like, I don't, I think of Black men and Black women are both frustrated in certain areas, but
Yeah.
we ain't gonna get nowhere, attacking each other. Or, women say,
Hmm.
oh, you said you want to serve your man. Oh, that makes you weak. And then men like, oh, you love that Black woman. That means you simping. Like, what you supposed to pimp hoes? Is that what you want,
We
Black
supposed
men?
to, okay, I think they want us to get on this podcast and then you just like smack me around or something.
I guess so, but
You're
it's
supposed
just
to get
kind of,
mad at me.
yeah, like white people
Wait,
get.
you supposed to Kirk Franklin me?
If you don't sit your motherfucker ass down,
Then you a real
I'm gonna
man.
bring your nut.
Then people will be happy.
He
You gonna
was.
Kirk
Well,
Franklin
you know
me?
what? Kirk Franklin is like. You could tell he's a passionate dude, because he was like, "No, I will bring your neck." Like he was like. I was like, okay, and that's the thing. Like, that's another.
You shouldn't be laughing at that.
It's not funny, but it's funny.
It's fun. It is funny. It is no joke though. It's
Right?
no joke.
It's funny, but it's not a joke. There
Yeah,
we go.
yeah. It's
But
funny.
seriously, like though, like the thing about it is like that sometimes it's hard. Like, oh, how about this? Old school, like which we, there's some things about old school parenting that work better than what we do now, but there's some things about old school parenting that maybe we need to leave in the past, right? And the thing is, if you grew up black, especially as a man, and you had like a father who was like
Mm-hmm.
really in your stuff, like you understand sometimes mm, boys don't always respond to like, oh, well, why don't you be a little nicer, blah blah blah. Like sometimes guys got to get in each other's face a little bit.
Yeah, and I think here's the thing. I think you just need a little bit of you need the masculine and the feminine. So that's where mothers and fathers are so important. So like you need the mom to be, you know, a little more gentle, and caring about how you feel, what's going on. But then again, you need the father to put some pressure on you, so you need both of that at the same time. And I think that makes it easier when you have a mom to take on that role or someone to take on that role. And then you have a father who's going to really put pressure on you. You need to have both because you don't want your child jumping off bridges and stuff because they think that
Yeah.
everything they hate everything.
That is
You don't
true.
want
That
that.
is true. Like, I mean, with boys, either they will rise to the occasion, or they will like sink and fold and into, and they become actually. It seems to me, and maybe you can speak on this, but when you have that assertive father, that alpha father who's kicking ass and taking names, some boys are like, I want to be like my dad, and some boys fold to the pressure. Actually, that happened in Donald Trump's family, believe it or not.
Oh,
Donald Trump's father,
uh-huh.
Fred, I mean, again, putting aside the politics and all that, I know some people love him, some people hate him. I don't care about that. But his father made millions and millions of dollars. He was real ambitious
Uh-huh.
and real into like toughness and stereotypical male, like you must kick everyone's ass in order to win, which sometimes that's appropriate. Sometimes you got to go to war, right? But now what was interesting was Donald like embraced that. Donald was like, "Yes, Dad, we will kick their ass, Dad. We will tear their ass apart, Dad." Whereas Fred, his brother, like couldn't handle that pressure of trying to match up to his father, so he became an alcoholic and died. Same thing happened in George Bush's family. George Bush Sr. was this military vet, straight A student, captain of the football team type guy, straight alpha. Um, I think Jeb responded well to it. George didn't. Like George didn't really like. So George kind of went the other direction. So sometimes if you're a high, what I'm saying is that sometimes if you're a high achieving father, your son will either match you and do what you're doing, or he's gonna like do the complete opposite because he doesn't want that pressure of trying to match his father's expectations.
Yeah, look, you have to let your children be and become who they want to be. You cannot have your children be replicants of you. Pay
Mm,
attention to your children, find out what they want to do, encourage them to fulfill their dreams. I mean, you're supposed to allow your child to do and become. You're supposed to listen to them, you're supposed to validate them. You're not supposed to give them shame. Shame is an awful thing to pass
mm.
on to your child. And I think
Yeah, the church
some of
and
these
the church has a lot of shame.
oh,
Like shame is a food group in
oh
some of these
yeah.
churches. Ooh, Lord. Not that all of them are bad. Again, I would defend the black church to the end, but we know the black church ain't perfect. Some churches, like the
They'll
shame
shame
part.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I agree with you. So let me
Okay.
do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, share button, subscribe button. Also, I'm gonna read some of Kirk's statement, and so we can just be fair. And also let me know if you can hear me. Give me a yes in the chat if you can still hear me. Okay, and hit the thumbs up button, please. All right, so they said he's 51. His son is 32. So just that means he was born when Kurt was 19. So
Oh, 19. Wait,
yeah,
was he married to the mom?
probably
Or
not.
was that a different mother?
Probably not. I mean,
Let me look it up.
19. I mean, who could take account for what they were doing when we was 19? I mean, my God.
But
So
there's
so
something
here's
else.
his apology. He says, recently my son and I had an argument that he chose to record. I think that was a bad first statement.
Okay.
I think like if you're trying to apologize, you can't be like, yeah, recently this happened, but it was his fault. Like
Okay.
I think that just kind of leaving that part out would have been fine. But the rest is pretty good. He said, I felt extremely disrespected in that conversation. I lost my temper and I said words that are not appropriate, and I am sincerely sorry to all of you. I sincerely apologize. Now, I don't know. What do you think about the apology? What do y'all think? Do y'all think it was a good apology or not?
He said it. Okay, read that
And he said,
again. He said,
okay, so he says, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it's like an apology with an explanation. Which is very different from just an unconditional apology, right? But listen, so he says, recently my son and I had an argument that he chose to record. I felt extremely disrespected in that conversation, and I lost my temper, and I said words that are not appropriate, and I am sincerely sorry to all of you. I sincerely apologize. Then he said, we tried for many years through counseling, through therapy, to try to rectify this private family matter. He never played that part on the recording. Then
okay.
he said, I'm not perfect. I'm human and I'm going to make mistakes and I'm trying to get it right. Please keep me and my family in your prayers.
Oh, I think that's a great apology.
You think so?
Yeah,
Tell me
because
why.
he admitted that a good apology is when you admit that you were wrong.
Okay.
You were like, I admit I never should have said that. That was a terrible thing. I've been, please pray for us and hope that we'll heal from this. Like, I thought it was really sincere. He said sincere like 3 times there, so I thought that was really good. And I think like, um, he just needs to focus on fixing it with his son.
Yeah, well, his son's issue was he said, I don't accept the apology because he didn't even apologize to me.
No, he
He
didn't.
apologized to his fans.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I wonder,
Yeah.
not to say I didn't like what his son did, because I'm closer to Kirk's age, so I'm gonna probably be able to empathize more with how he was feeling, like that frustration.
Uh
Like I don't
huh.
know anybody else in here ever just get so pissed off with your kids you want to wring somebody's neck.
Oh, we all do. I know
Yeah,
I do.
yeah, like
But if I ever fall below a decent level, if I ever lose it like that, which all of us do, you really do need to go back and say that was wrong. I never should have done that. Let's work this out. You know.
yeah. And what I think about is, again, even though I can understand Kirk's perspective probably a little bit more, even though I had a pretty dominant father too, so I can understand both of their points of view to a
Yeah.
point. Um, because there was times where I kind of had to stand up to my dad too, in a certain way, and but it's like, I think though that I can imagine Kirk being 51 and being an international superstar. Sometimes you could think it is all about you, and you
Mm-hmm.
forget about the people that are affected by, your shine is so bright, you forget about all the little planets that are revolving around you that are being affected by
Mm-hmm.
that the heat from that shine. And I wonder, like, I felt like with the apology, even though the apology, I mean, it's good. I mean, I don't have no issue with Kirk Franklin in that way, but I felt like there's a lot of explanation in the apology. It didn't come off like, what I did was wrong. I should have
Mm-hmm.
handled it differently.
Mm-hmm.
I take responsibility for my actions, and then boom, leave it at that. Right? I apologize to my son, to my family,
Mm-hmm.
and then to God, and then to my fans. Right? Put the fans
Wait, did
last.
he mention God in the whole thing?
Oh, he didn't. He sure as hell didn't,
He
did he?
didn't say
Well,
Jesus or God.
since when do we let God get away with some good gospel music? Well, some of the gospel music starting to sound like hip hop anyway.
Well,
Like
yeah.
some of the gospel singers are starting to, like, because they're trying to make money. That's the trapping of money and fame.
Okay.
They're trying to make money. They're trying to get clout. So
Yeah.
some of them literally are imitating rappers in almost every way, except for when it gets like right at the line, like cussing, or like when you really want to call that woman, out of her name or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it almost feels like I don't know. From what I hear with the gospel, like they're trying so hard to be mainstream that some of the gospel artists become like rappers.
Well, they're trying to cater to a younger audience. But I think like while you were talking, what I was like reminded of is that yeah, I mean, he's the oldest son. We can just assume right now because we don't know for sure, but he's the oldest son of Kirk Franklin, and I am certain Kirk Franklin was away from the house a lot. I'm certain he's out there, he was touring, he's writing all that music, probably in the studio, don't have time to deal with his child. I mean, just think about how intense Kirk Frank was putting out
Hmm.
music like all the time. I mean, he was putting out all this music, investing all of his time and attention was paid toward these choirs and getting the singers together. I mean, it was a very probably a very busy schedule, and he probably did not have a lot of time to even get to know his son. They don't,
Yeah.
probably don't even know each other,
Yeah.
to get to know his son. And I think, like children, they start to resent, they start to resent the church.
And you
They
don't
start
even.
to resent their father, and they start to resent all that fame because to them it represents, this is yet another thing taking my father away from me, and he's giving attention to these other things and not enough attention to me.
Well, what I think about too is I wonder. I would have a hard time imagining that he grew up inside the house with Kirk growing up. I
Yeah, we
imagine
don't
if
know.
so there's a situation maybe where he lived with his mama, and then he maybe saw his mother's frustrations, like you mentioned, that parental alienation thing. It could be possible that Kirk could be affected by
Oh
parental
yeah, we
alienation.
don't.
Like you talked about that, right? That sometimes when the child lives with the mother,
Hmm.
if the mother is poor and the father is wealthy, then the child can sometimes feel out of loyalty that they should hate their father, you know, just because the mama's mad at him too.
Well, moms do. Well, it's usually the custodial parent that does this to the alienated parent, to the
Mm,
outside parent. Will, and I don't know if they necessarily intentionally do that. Like,
mm,
that's why you shouldn't allow children to overhear you talk negatively about the other parent. Like, that's just
mm.
so important. If you love your child, the best thing you can do is love the parent. Is
Yeah.
love your So if you're a father and you really love your children, the best way to love your child is to also love the mother. Even
Mm,
though the mom could be doing some things that that get on your nerves, you've got to love that mother, because the child's like, I'm half of my mom, and if you don't like my mom, then you don't like me.
yeah, I'm curious.
They think like that. Go ahead.
Does
Mhm.
anybody know? Did Kirk grow up?
I'm trying to search
With,
it on my phone.
sorry, did his son grow up in his house, or did his son grow up like with a woman that he had a baby with when he was young? Because it seemed like Kirk was kind of in the streets for a while before
Was
he.
he? I
I'm
don't
not sure.
know.
Well, I mean, we know about some of the challenges he's had, and I think I wonder if they how much time they were able to spend together, because a lot of times you'll see fathers that will get into it with their child, and everybody wants to say it's because the father ain't nothing, but sometimes it's because the child was turned against against the father. So he's like mad because he's like, I'm trying to be nice to you and you're not.
Hmm.
You're resisting me at every turn. So that's like a real thing. Like that's a real thing.
Oh
So
wait, okay. I'm looking on Wikipedia. So they both had a child from previous relationships when he married his wife Tammy.
okay.
So, okay, boys, you're on to something.
Yeah. Well, so I
Yeah,
guess if they don't live in the same house, they didn't know each other very well.
they didn't know
And
each other.
so maybe they're trying to piece this thing together. And but when I read I'm gonna tell you, when I read Kirk's, if I were Kirk's friend, right, and I was talking about his apology,
Mm-hmm,
I would have
mm-hmm.
told him, you got to really humble yourself in this apology. It's gonna be hard, but because I think that what it is that when you're famous, um, there's a risk of a little bit of vanity kicking in, because you're so used to everybody catering to you, and it can be very frustrating when you have relatives who are like, I don't care how famous you are, you ain't nothing to me.
That's right.
Like
Yeah.
that's and you're
Not that you're not nothing to me. You're just as good to me as anybody else. Like, we're not gonna hear you gonna be like around your family. They call you Coco. You're like, all right, you could be the Boyce Watkins, but right now you Coco, and you come on and let's play some cards. Or
yeah,
you know what I mean?
but
Like,
I'm,
they keep
but
you
I'm gonna tell you the truth.
grounded. Hmm.
They do keep you grounded, but sometimes it's like it's just one of those things. It's hard to explain.
Okay.
Like it's
Okay.
like when in my own life, when I leave the house and I go
Yeah.
places and people just love everything you say and they want to, like they give you just an amazing amount of respect. It's hard to go from that to being in a space where you might feel like somebody's, in fact, they're disrespecting you,
Mm-hmm.
maybe
Mm-hmm.
just to make a point to you.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's
And then you
awful.
talk about a guy like Kirk Franklin. He didn't become an internationally known success by being a weak little timid man. Like he seems like I wasn't surprised he got in his son's face, because that's how Kirk has become. Kirk
Mm-hmm.
Franklin is by getting out there and going hard for what he believes in, fighting back, fighting. He's a fighter. Like that same passion I heard in his voice when he's like, "Nigga, I will wring your neck." It's like
Uh-huh.
I think Kirk said that to the world. He said that to life. He said, "I will wring your neck if you don't give me the success I
Okay.
deserve because I deserve it because I'm the greatest, and I admire that, but I can see where that would cause tremendous issues in personal
Uh-huh.
relationships.
Uh-huh. Well, I mean, just thinking about the fact that he had a porn addiction, let's just talk about that for a
Mm.
little bit. That tells me that for Kirk Franklin, in and of himself, he is dealing with his own issues, because to have that addiction, it's just like that's where you get your comfort from. It's this
Yeah,
one single addiction. And so that means, what are you cutting yourself off
he's probably got other. I mean, well, I'm gonna say
of?
him. I'm not gonna say the one way or the other. We don't know his life, but I imagine.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I don't know why that it went in that direction, but I will say that I imagine you live a very stressful life. Things like that are going to
Mm-hmm.
happen. And I don't know how the addictions necessarily would affect his ability to relate
Well,
to other
when you're
people, though.
stressed, that's how you deal with your addiction. So when you're under a whole lot of stress, you're just like, okay, this is how I'm going to deal with my stress. I'm going to do it this way. So that's
Mm.
how it becomes an addiction. You can't stop. It's a compulsion. You won't be able
Okay,
to stop doing it.
I can see that. Yeah. So I'm gonna bring your
I'm
neck,
gonna wring your neck.
choke that chicken. I'm gonna bring you in the chicken's neck.
We should not be laughing about this, boys. This is a very
It's
serious
funny.
thing.
It's funny. It's funny. Well,
Yeah.
I'll tell you. I think when I watched this, I think that what compelled me to really think about it and talk about it is I felt bad for both of them.
Yeah.
I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
I heard the frustration. Like one thing people don't, you know, one thing that's one weird perspective on this I'll throw out there is that if somebody is, sometimes some people have to care about you enough to yell at you. Like if think
Oh
about it,
yeah.
you're talking about Kirk
Yeah.
Franklin, who's got thousands of friends all over the world,
Yeah.
thousands of places he could be, thousands of things he could be doing, but he at least cared enough to like yell at his son and give
Yeah.
him that time and attention. Now I know that sounds crazy,
No, it
right?
doesn't sound crazy. It
But
makes perfect sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I'm gonna tell you, like if I argue with you, that means I care about you.
Yeah.
If I don't care about you, I won't say nothing.
That's
I
right.
literally, you know what I'll do if I don't care about you? I will ignore you. I just won't speak to you anymore.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, like they say, the opposite of love is hate. The opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference.
That's right. Yeah, you're so right. So, I mean, he in that passionate voice, he was speaking from a place of love. Now, mind you, it was on the
It was
place where it
well,
was
it was a little
it was
toxic,
negative.
right?
But the thing is that if he wasn't looking for that connection with his son and didn't get frustrated by probably felt like he couldn't get through to his son. Like, I
Hmm.
can't get through to you. I want to like let you know what's going on with me. He probably was trying to express a side of him that probably his son wasn't getting, and probably his son was very frustrated too. Just think about how frustrated his son was to pull out a recording device and record that.
Yeah,
Like, it was a big cry for help.
and that, but the
Hmm.
problem with that is that I mean that's really over the line
Oh,
because
it's way over the
yeah,
line.
family loyalty is important, and
Uh-huh.
when you get to the point, and this is something where I think we talk about parental alienation, if that might have been an issue,
Could have been, yeah.
where it gets over the line is I believe when your child becomes a threat to you,
Uh-huh.
either physically or whatever, you might have to cut ties. Like 50 Cent, when 50 Cent's son, because remember 50 Cent, when he built his whole career off of, I got shot 9 times. I got shot 9 times. That's all he
Uh-huh.
rapped about and talked about. Like I got shot 9 times. That built his whole career. Well, if I'm not mistaken, like the people connected to him getting shot 9 times was this guy. I forgot the guy's name. He's one of the gangsters in New York, and Supreme something. And 50 Cent's son, to spite his father, if I'm not mistaken, I might have some of the facts wrong, took a picture with the son of the motherfucker who shot his dad, who's connected to the shooting of his father.
Okay, so I mean, that's interesting because I think like maybe the son betrayed the father in both of those situations. Perhaps the child felt this the
Yes,
child felt that way, and
I
many times you betrayed me, and many times you
I
betrayed us,
I can get that.
in many
I
times.
totally
It's
get
not
that.
the best way to deal with it. I'm just explaining what probably is happening.
Yeah,
You know?
I totally get that.
Yeah.
But there's a point where when somebody in your family becomes a threat to the things that that are important for your
Mm-hmm.
life, either your safety or your wealth. I mean, Kirk Franklin employs tons of people. So when you're trying to destroy the empire that he built, like I'm going to secretly record you
Uh-huh.
and put the recording out to the world,
Yeah. Yeah. And so I
that
mean,
ain't cool.
yeah, I mean that's a good point. And I think like too, just because they're your family members doesn't mean that you really have to. You sometimes there is no working it out. I mean,
Mhm.
sometimes children, and I even do this in my practice, like if people I see in my practice, if they have a parent that's really, really awful to them and very abusive to them, I'm just like, you know what? Just because they're your mother, you don't have to. You're old enough now where you can stand on your own 2 feet. You don't have to keep subjecting yourself to that type of abuse.
Mm.
I say that you're
Hmm.
worthy of more than just that. And it doesn't matter if they're your friend, if they're your family members, like you don't have to continue to stay in contact with that person just because you may have made a commitment to that person. But if they continue to abuse you, it is okay to cut yourself off from them.
I agree with that.
You know
I put Miley's comment up here.
what they
Miley
say?
said, "Boys, they gotta go. He's not a child. He's a grown man. He gotta go." That is
Yeah,
true.
sometimes you
That's true.
do.
33 years old.
If it,
You ain't in
yeah.
middle school, like
Uh-huh.
you're
Uh-huh.
not a teenager.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean that's what you have to do sometimes. Say, you know what? I wish you the best. I love you. And you have to forgive that person. Even if they don't even ask for forgiveness. That's a very tough thing to do.
Yeah.
But then again, you don't put yourself back out there like to get yourself hurt again. And you shouldn't feel guilty about that either. Don't feel guilty. Don't let guilt control your actions and behavior so that you can put yourself right back in a situation where you're going to be abused.
Mm. Hey,
You know?
everybody, do me
Hmm.
a favor. Hit the thumbs up button if you haven't done it yet. Please hit the thumbs up, share, subscribe button. And by the way, Alicia is a licensed therapist. She's a full professor of social work, and so she's not just talking out the side of her neck. I am, and
I cannot believe I've been doing this for 18 years, boys.
yeah, you have. You've been doing this
I
for a
have a
while.
grown baby.
Yes, you do. Yeah, so
Crazy.
that's her website, coaching with Dr. Alicia. I think you're booked up with clients, but you
I'm
got your
I'm pretty full,
you're,
but
you're pretty. But there's a website if you
I
guys
still
want to
talk to
take a look.
people.
And
Hmm.
there's another, if you're interested in things like love and money and stuff like that, that's the blackloveblueprint.com. We have a whole series on love and money and all different kinds of things, so you can feel free to take a look. I will say this, I guess, just finishing off with the Kirk Franklin conversation. I do think, when the child is 33, that's different from when they were 13, and it may be time, to cut ties. Also, I think that there's there's something. If I were to give Kirk advice, I would probably tell him, you know, either learn acceptance, like either find a way to accept him, and
Hmm.
and work with the therapist, submit yourself to this. Like, you can't be big shot Kirk Franklin and deal with something as humbling as a
Hmm.
family issue, because kids can be an enigma. It's very difficult to do, and you don't understand that till you become a parent. Like,
Hmm.
kids are quick to criticize parents, but when you become one, then you're like, okay, now I'm not going to be so harsh with my parents because I know what they were trying to figure out. Because there are books on it, but there's no book on how to raise that child, and you don't know. Like, you could do
Hmm.
99% of everything right, and that 1% might be the thing that the kid spends the whole next 20 years talking about. But I also think that forgiveness, if I were giving advice to the
Yeah.
son,
Oh yeah.
I would encourage him to consider forgiveness. Because my dad was a hard man. You could easily say that it was abusive because he was young. He was very young, and
What do you mean abusive?
my father he was a PTSD Vietnam veteran and a cop. So in our household, a lot of the masculinity was driven by his ability to maintain control.
Oh my.
He's a very manly man, very masculine man. He's killed people. I never doubted that he would kill me if he had to. So I never challenged that. I wasn't gonna get in my daddy's face. He had guns. Like,
So what happened when you had needs that need to be met? Like what if you
well, you know
did
what it was.
something?
To be real with you, some of
Yeah.
those needs were not met. And because I had a father, I had a biological father. For whatever reason, he wasn't around. I don't know the whole story, right?
Okay.
But he
Yeah.
wasn't there. And I'm 3. I had no father, and my dad stepped in and married my mother. And when he married my mother, I guess some people think he was simping. I don't know. Some of these little boys out here think that that's simping. I don't think it's simping. I'm glad he did it, and he took care of me. He really took care of me. But the other side of that was that as he's young, it was sometimes like having a mean older brother. It wasn't, like with my,
So he was. Are you? So he was mean to you? Like.
well, with my other
Mm-hmm.
siblings, he was different because he matured. He learned things. He mellowed out as he got older. But when I dealt with him in his mid to early 20s and his 30s, he was just a different kind of man. So the thing was, it was tough. It was really tough. There, but remember, here's the thing. I learned a lot from my father when he told me that his father never even hugged him. His
Okay.
father never even told him he loved him.
Okay, but still, I'm more focused on you and what you experienced because like those are very formative years, and
Mm,
like what happens to you from 0 to 5 is so important, and it sets you up. A lot of it sets you up in terms of like your development, and that's a critical
mm,
point. And so, like you having to experience that at such a early age, that must be something that you have to carry along with you. And I could probably, because I
mm,
know you, of course, I know you very well. I can see where some of that permeates
mm-hmm.
in a way where, some of that stuff it needs to be addressed
Well, you
eventually,
know what it did, but you know what had really helped me a lot, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
is forgiveness. Like when
Mm-hmm.
I don't want you to diagnose me.
I'm not
Kirk
diagnosing
Bond
you.
says Boyce is getting diagnosed right now,
I'm not
and I just want y'all
diagnosing
to know
you.
that's one of the downsides of dating a therapist. Is she be diagnosing you? I'm like, don't be diagnosing me,
No,
woman.
I'm just saying that's a
Put your
tough thing.
stethoscope back in your pocket. Anyway, so but no, let me just tell you what helped me. Like it was a matter of finding balance. Like I got to a point when I was 19 and I was very mad about some of the challenges. My parents did a lot of things right, but there were some things that they would do differently. And you know what I just realized is I said, I read something somewhere about the power of forgiveness and how
Mm-hmm.
forgiveness is not for the other person. Forgiveness is for you. Like forgiveness keeps you from going through life bitter, pissed off, feeling like somebody owes you something, feeling like the world did you wrong. No, I chose to I chose to be an optimist. That's what really helped my mental health a lot. And I will never let that go. Like you can't talk me out of that shit because that worked. Was just choosing to be optimistic. Like so when I think about my parents in my childhood, I'm like, yeah, there was some stuff that could have been done better. There's some things that I would change if I could. And my parents agree with me on that. But then I'm like, okay, then I think about, okay, what are the positives? Number one, this man, I was not his son. He could have been like a lot of these other people. A lot of these other people think a man is a simp for taking care of somebody else's kids. Like that's how toxic and ridiculous and sick our community is. That you really think that because that child didn't come out of your body, that child does not deserve love. That's a fucking baby. Fuck you. you know and so the fact that my father did that for me, and my father was a young man in his early 20s. He had women all over him. He could have been out here trying to be a player, trying to be a pimp, all that. He didn't do none of that. he
So,
he married, listen, hold on,
mm-hmm.
he married my mother, and he loved me and he protected me. He took me with him everywhere. He took me, there's pictures of me going with him to the military base, kicking it with his friends and sitting there where they sitting there smoking cigarettes and playing cards, doing all this toxic masculinity shit. They would just have me, like I'd be sitting on his lap while he's smoking a cigarette, playing cards with his friends. And I loved that as a boy. That was real love for me. So as much as, like, don't get me wrong. I mean, yeah, my father went through Vietnam. I mean, do you know how fucked up Vietnam was for black men? Like guys came back with heroin addictions, dead, in a box that came back with no legs, no arms, brain all messed up. The fact that he was able to walk away from a heroin addiction that he picked up in Vietnam and
Mm-hmm.
choose to be the man that he was, a solid dude who made sure we ate every day, who came home every day and protected us every day. I'm going to give him credit for that before I start picking away at the things he didn't do right.
Yeah, but that's all good. The thing is, and we could acknowledge a lot of that, but the thing is that there may have been times where you may have um you may have needed to be nurtured a little more. And
Absolutely.
it just makes me wonder about like sometimes the trauma that people go through when they're really young, it really, can hang on them. And
Yeah.
that, with a lot of adult survivors of trauma at an early age, they always tend to stick up for
Maybe
the
identify with the
parent.
abusers,
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
Stockholm syndrome kind
they
of thing.
do. They have this Stockholm syndrome thing. And so, that's something that does typically happen. So, but with Kirk Franklin, I wouldn't imagine that some of these things haven't happened to him and his child. And I hope that I wish them best And I hope that they really heal from that. And all people who've dealt with things that were traumatic, and traumatic doesn't even have to be where someone physically abused you. A lot of trauma comes from just basic neglect, and
Mm-hmm.
feeling like you're not even worthy. You're not
Mm.
even worthy of a father who even really,
Yeah.
made you number one. And
Yeah.
you're not
Mm-hmm.
worthy of having a mother who stepped in and protected you when it needed to
Right.
be protected you. And so you can grow up with a lot of anger toward women. You can have a lot of anger toward men. You can have a lot, and that really structures your personality too.
I can see that.
So it's a very
Yeah.
complex thing.
I agree. I agree. I
Uh-huh.
agree with you 100%. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the world, it seems like life is full of like traumatic experiences, and I would imagine the best advice for anybody is, work through your shit. Like that to me is like figure out,
Mm-hmm.
like where you're, try to see. It's hard to see your blind spots. Maybe sometimes other people can see them, where like you see blind spots with me or issues with me that I may not see.
I like that. And you see blind spots with me too. And I go, oh, yeah, I'm easy. I'll just say, I didn't have any adverse childhood experiences. Like if I were to take the ACEs test, like I wouldn't check a lot of that off
The
because,
ACEs test, you got to explain. You're using,
oh,
because
adverse.
somebody's also asking what is Stockholm syndrome,
Oh,
and that's
goodness.
where
Okay.
you are, where I guess when somebody harms you
You
and
identify with your abuser. I mean, oh, hey, R. Kelly. R. Kelly's a perfect example of it. Those women, he's abused those women, and they'll come out and defend him. That's what
well, I
happens with
I
Stockholm syndrome.
yeah, but
It's
but it's also
classic
with R. Kelly.
abuse.
To me, there's a difference between the 15-year-olds and the 25-year-olds.
You can still have Stockholm syndrome at 25.
I don't disagree, but
Hmm.
my thing is, if they
Your brain isn't
when you
even
talking
fully
about the
developed.
older women, they never I never saw proof that there was abuse going on. I heard accusations, like, and that's the thing. People think if you accuse a black man of something, then it must be true. No, I'm not going to sit here and defend R. Kelly. I never have ever. And, I thought black people were too lenient with him. To be honest with you,
Well, we're not
because
trying to put him in jail, but I'm just
well,
saying,
I don't
okay.
know. Remember Aaliyah? He married Aaliyah, and she was like in the 10th grade or something.
I'm just saying that it just follows the basic trajectory of a Stockholm syndrome situation. It is the
Mm.
classic abusive situation there. And so that's what typically happens. And that's what happens all the time in family courts all the time. The woman will put a protective order against her husband, and next thing you know, her husband's back in the house violating
Yeah.
the protective order. I mean, it happens a lot, and it
Well,
happens even in abusive
right, and let's not
situations.
forget though that there are a lot
Hmm.
of men who also forgive their abusive wives or abusive girlfriends.
Yeah, women are extremely abusive, and
right.
the problem with that is that a lot of times it's not, men don't recognize that it is abusive. So what's abusive with your significant, what a woman, what women typically do, is psychological and emotional. You want to be able to come to your partner and tell your partner how you feel about something, and you want them to honor that. You want them to say, "Oh no, that makes you feel uncomfortable. Let me stop this."
Yeah.
And
Well.
you apologize for it. But
Mm,
if you sit there and you're being defensive and you're criticizing and you're getting mad at that person, that's toxic, you
like
know?
like Kirk Franklin. No, I wring your neck,
I wring your
nigga,
neck. That's
nigga.
terrible. Terrible. And I bet he feels really bad about. That's a good thing. So when
I
someone's mean to you and they feel bad about it,
no, I
that's
don't.
a great thing. You're supposed to feel bad about
I
it.
don't think he feels bad about it. I
Oh.
think Kirk is mad that I think he's like, now I'm really gonna wring your neck because you recorded our conversation. Got me out here apologizing. Like, I don't, I thought it was, well, you know what it made me think about? It was we know, like, the church is a space where, from what I'm gathering, it's a space where you give people a big margin of error. There's like, it's like the same way the government is giving away so much money and stimulus checks and everything, and spending so much that money doesn't have any value anymore. The dollar's like losing its value because it's flooding the market. They're flooding the market with it. Well, it's kind of like that with the church. They kind of flood the market with forgiveness to the point where you could pretty much do anything, and as long as you pray and pay your tithes, you good. So with Kirk at the end, the language in the apology at the very end, he's like, I'm human. I'm not perfect. And that's gonna make 90% of the church people be like, yeah, ain't none of us perfect. We ain't worthy. Like that terrible song
Yeah.
Beyonce did with the guy you like.
I love that
It sounds
song.
good, but it's some damn slave
It is a slave song, but
lyrics.
it's a beautiful song though.
It's like I'm not worthy. Like I've been beat up, I've been spit on, kicked around. I'm not worthy, and it's just like, okay, so is this like called the low self esteem song? Like
It
no,
probably
I'm
is.
sorry if you go to the Church of Boys. First thing I'm gonna tell you in the Church of Boys, can I
What?
get an amen? Is that you are worthy. You are worthy, and that you can meet a higher standard. And that also you are not a victim. That's what there. Can I get an amen from the Church of Intelligent Black People? You are worthy. You are smart. You are capable. You can do anything that you put your mind to, and even if you're not praying, it's okay. I'm going to forgive you for that. I just want you to go and do your best. Like I think that's a better
But he
gospel.
still loves me. I'm not worthy.
Right, black people. Like I'm not that honestly, as a man, and then again, maybe there's other people who disagree. And it's not a hate on the church at all. I don't have an issue with the church, but we know that the church ain't perfect. Just like ain't none of us
Well,
perfect,
we're
right?
not the most religious people. I think that's the
Well, we
thing.
have something called logic, and we look at we'll analyze what you actually say,
Uh-huh.
and be like, that don't make no damn sense. Like seriously, like I don't like I'm not no, you're not gonna tell me that the
Mm-hmm.
only reason I'm worth a damn is because some magical white man from the sky has blessed me or he died for my sins. Like, no. Don't get me wrong. I believe in a God. There has to be some kind of God because I didn't create myself. I get that. Right. I believe in all the principles of the Bible. The Bible is a wonderful, wise book full of all kinds of great like information and stories and wisdom. I mean, the Bible is a beautiful book, right? Church is a beautiful place. It's got beautiful people. The black church is one of the most powerful political, social, and economic institutions and
It
educational
sure
institutions
is.
in America.
Yeah, that's where they're going now to get us all to take the coronavirus shot.
Now, see that's what I'm talking about. That's why I get off the bus. I saw TD Jakes. I saw TD Jakes and Tamala Mann get up on stage.
Uh-huh.
Like both of them, and neither one of them missed too many meals. Both of them, they big. Let's just be honest. And they up here talking about get this shot. Here's Dr. Fauci. Here's your magical white man. He's just like
Uh-huh.
he looks just like Jesus, and he wants you to get this shot.
Uh-huh.
And ain't nobody saying nothing about
Let me tell you.
prevented. Wait, hold on.
Uh-huh.
The number one factor in catching those viruses is obesity. So why don't we start with the beginning and talk about preventing health problems as opposed to simply saying let's let the health problems happen and then but because we're not worthy and we just not able to do nothing for ourselves, we're going to turn to the government for a shot. See, people don't understand that if you're not careful, you can get to the point where you start looking at these Dr. Fauci's as your white Jesus. You start looking at the government as your God. It should be called government.
Let me tell you, when I was in college, I joined at Indiana, I joined the gospel choir. And let me tell you, we would go to these churches, these black churches, and after we sang, they fed us all fried chicken, mashed potato. I mean,
The
I
best food.
would
It would
look
taste so
forward.
good.
I know I gained like 50 pounds just eating that church food in the basement. God bless those ladies cooking that food.
Oh,
But
you gotta love
the
them.
thing is, the food was delicious and it was soul food and it kept me going through the
It'd be like
week
nice and
and
salty.
everything.
They got sugar in it. Ain't no
It was
reason even
so good.
why you got sugar in this particular like greens don't need sugar.
Everything has sugar. Oh my God. And the sweet tea. Can you tell me the sweet tea
Oh,
wasn't doing?
the
Because
sweet
I'm
tea.
eating dorm food.
I'm
I'm
sure.
eating
I
food.
bet a million Negroes have died from sweet tea alone.
Sweet tea was killing me. And I would and I'd take a plate to go and everything. But, I love that food, but, it was so unhealthy. Nobody should be eating that kind of food,
Yeah, that's the thing. So it's like a love hate thing.
Yeah.
Like they are like they could be like the local crack dealers. We're gonna deal you some religion and soul food, and you can stay high on that, and that'll get you through the week
It does get you through the week.
because you ain't worthy, right? We serve you some white Jesus, a little white supremacy on the side, right? Because we know you're addicted to that too. And I just kind of think, and I think it's okay to call these things out and still say that you don't hate the black church. Like I don't hate the black church. I don't because the black church is diverse. There's thousands and thousands of churches that have different agendas. There are churches out here that have excellent health programs. that don't do
Doing
the
some great
unhealthy food
things.
thing.
Yeah.
Right. There are
Hmm.
churches that have excellent financial literacy programs out here. There are churches that have excellent relationship. You had some churches reach out to you
Yeah, a
about.
couple of churches reached
Yeah.
out to me and pastors and everything about, about some of my content. And they want to keep those families together in the church. And they know
Mm-hmm.
that they are limited because they can't be everything to everybody. They got to know they enough to know, oh, you need a professional.
Well, you
You
know
know,
what? I love
it's great.
one thing. And here's one of the main reasons I love the Black church so much. There's about maybe 5 reasons I can say that I respect the Black church when we do things right. Is the Black church is one of the last holdouts for the Black family.
Yeah. Oh
Like
yeah.
that's one of the few places where they're real clear about the ones that are not trying to fit in. That's why I don't like trying to fit in with this. Again, if you're gonna be a faith, be a faith. Like, don't be secular. Stop trying to be secular. Stop trying to imitate. If you're a gospel singer, sing gospel. Stop trying to imitate the rappers. Stop trying to twerk in church. So because you're trying to be cool, you would see that type of stuff where people, it comes from people who don't know who they are. Like, to me, I respect you even no matter who you are. I respect you more if you're clear about who you are and you stay that person and you're consistent with it. So if you're a pastor, preach your damn Bible and stick with that damn Bible. Don't be
How
up
you
here.
gonna say
Don't
damn
be.
Bible?
Don't. Sorry.
You should have
You know
used
what I'm saying.
that.
But don't. I know. Don't be writing gay sentences in the passages or in between in between the passages. Like, well, Jesus probably would have approved of transgender. No, no, no. If it's against the Bible, then say that.
It's all through the Bible that being gay is wrong. I'm
Right.
not saying I agree with that part,
Mm-hmm.
but it's all in there.
Yeah,
All
like
through the
yeah,
Bible.
and I think that's if I was to name like one of the things I love about certain parts of the Black church is they're a holdout for family. They encourage family. I think that's wonderful. If I had a critique, it's like, stop being flimsy. Stand on what you believe in. Quit trying to fit in with the Democratic Party just because you think that they're your slave liberators. No, none of these parties going to liberate you. So stop going along with whatever debaucherous bullshit they put in your face. Like, if you're not with it, just say I'm not with it and stand on that.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, that's it. That's it. Because if you don't know who the hell you are, people will drag you all over the place, have you looking crazy and hypocritical.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Y'all got that?
Mm-hmm.
That is your message from today from the Church of Boys.
The Church of Boys. Oh wait, I'm the first lady.
You're the first
I'm the
lady of the
first
church.
lady of the church.
Oh,
I
okay.
gotta get my hat. I gotta get my first
Get
lady
your church
hat.
hat. Yes, Lord. Miss Alicia, you looking mighty blessed today.
Why, thank you. Why, thank you.
Amen. All
Amen.
right. Can the church say amen? We're going to get out of here. I got a meeting to go to. It was fun talking to y'all. And I hope you'll subscribe to the channel. And also, like I said, if you believe in things like Black love and relationships, me and Alicia chop it up a lot on the blacklovechannel.com. So feel free to go there as well. And we're not, we are a little silly. We have fun, but we're not into ignorance. We want you to be better and smarter as a result. And as far as Kirk Franklin and his son, I hope they work that out. And God bless both of you. And whatever pain you're feeling, I hope that gets healed. And the same is true for anybody out here that feels alienated or disconnected or has had some trauma. Our heart is with you. So say goodbye, baby.
Okay. Goodbye.
All right.
Goodbye, everyone.
Talk to you guys later. Have a good day. Be good. Peace.